Okay, Aleph Bet. How did they release their co-wives? If a man's daughter, any one of these forbidden relations, was married to his brother, and he had another wife as well, and he died, just as his daughter is released, so too is her co-wife. If his daughter's co-wife went and married his second brother, and he also had another wife, and then he died, just as his daughter's co-wife is released, she too is her co-wife's co-wife, even if there are 100. How is it that if they died, their co-wives are permitted? If a man's daughter or any one of these forbidden relatives was married to his brother, and he also had another wife, and his daughter died or was divorced, and then his brother died, her co-wife is permitted. Anyone who is able to refuse but did not do so, her co-wife requires a chalitza or is prohibited from yibum. 6 forbidden relations are more stringent than these, for they are married to others. Their co-wives are permitted: his mother, father's wife, father's sister, father's brother's wife, and paternal brother's wife. Beit Shammai permits the co-wives to the brothers, but Beis Hillel forbids them. If they perform chalitza, Beit Shammai disqualifies them from marrying into the priesthood, but Beis Hillel qualifies them. If they were taken in yibum, Beit Shammai qualifies them, but Beis Hillel disqualifies them. Even those these prohibited and these permitted, they're disqualified and these are qualified. Beit Shammai did not refrain from marrying women of Beis Hillel, nor Beis Hillel of Beit Shammai. Despite all the things that these judged Tahor and that these judged Tameh, they did not refrain from using each other's utensils for purposes of Tahara.
Okay. Right, Perek base. So now we're asking the case of the brother who was not alive at the same time, and why and how could you have a case of Yibum with the brother who wasn't alive at the time? Okay, so how does this case work? So you got 2 brothers, Reuven and Shimon. So let's say Reuven dies. So Reuven dies and he leaves over a wife. Okay, and now and before Shimon does a Yibum, they have a brother Levi is born. Okay, so now Levi, at this very moment, Levi's relationship to Reuven's widow she's not eligible for Yibum. Why? Because she's my brother who wasn't alive at the same time as me. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now Shimon takes Reuven's wife in Yibum. Now Shimon also dies. So the widow, Reuven's widow, remains asur to Levi. And any other wives that Shimon might have had go out without chalitza because of this. Okay, so that's just explaining our case of the brother who was not alive at the same time. Asaba Mamar. Now what happens if Shimon had not done Yibum to her, but he had just done Mamar? Now remember, what Mamar is basically a Kiddushin Derabanan that Chazal said to do before Yibum, because technically the way Yibum is done midoraisa is simply by having relations with a woman. Chazal said lo yafeh. Let's do this. We don't just want guys a marriage looking like it's being affected by a guy clubbing the woman over the head and dragging her off by the hair or something like that. Okay, it's just we want to make it look like a nice marriage. So he said do a kiddushin on her, and it's not really a kiddushin, a semi kiddushin on her, and then they're married d'Rabbanan. So once again, we have this funny little dichotomy where on a d'Rabbanan level they're married, on a d'Oraisa level they're not. So on the d'Rabbanan level, on the d'Rabbanan level, he's not allowed to marry the Shimon's co-wife, right? Because it looks like they were married. However, on the d'Oraisa level, there's no connection between Shimon and this woman. Shimon, all that's happened is that Reuben's died, Shimon's died. There's now a widow from Reuben and a widow from Shimon. The widow from Reuben is asur to Levi because it's his brother wasn't alive at the same time, but Shimon was alive at the same time, and therefore and therefore Shimon's widow is eligible for Yibum. But he can't do Yibum with her because why can't he do Yibum with her? Because it looks like she's a tzara of an erva to him on a Durabanan level.
Right.
We've got to be machmir on both sides. We machmir Durabanan that he can't do Yibum on Shimon's widow, but midoraisa she needs a chalitza. So therefore, if Asa b'mama, if Shimon had done mama to her b'meis, shnia choletzis v'lo misyabemis, she must have chalitza and not yibum. Okay. Shnei achim. Okay, we have two brothers, Reuven and Shimon. B'meis echad mehen. So Reuven dies. Yibem hasheni is eishes achiv, and now Shimon takes Reuven's wife in Yibum. And now another brother is born. So now the brother is born into a world where there is where Shimon is already married to Reuven's widow. This is slightly different from the previous case where it was very clear that Levi was born into a world where Reuven's widow is asa to him. But now in this case, Reuven's widow is already married to Shimon. Okay. Now, Mais, and now Shimon dies. Okay. Harishona yotzes mishum eishes achiv shelo haya ba'olamo. So once again, says Tanakama, the Reuven's widow is still a case of eishes achiv shelo haya ba'olamo. Hashniya mishum tzarasa, and the second wife is because of tzara. So in other words, neither of them even needs a chalitza; they just go free. Asa b'mamar b'meis. What happens if Shimon had done mamar on her, and then so once again it's the same case where there's a kiddushin derabanan, and therefore again the second one requires a chalitza to release a midoraisa, but you can't have yibum because of the derabanan issue that it looks like a tzaras erva. Rabbi Shimon omer miyabem le'ezo mehen sheyirtze or choletz le'ezo mehen sheyirtze. So Rabbi Shimon says this second case is not equivalent to the first case because here Levi was born into a world where Shimon is legally married to Reuven's widow, and therefore she's not at this point eishes achiv shelo haya ba'olamo, says Rabbi Shimon. Okay, and therefore he says if Shimon subsequently dies, he can do yibum on whichever one he wants. Okay, and halacha will follow the chachamim. Okay, you see the distinction between the two cases.
I'm trying.
Well, in the one, Levi is born into a world where the widow is,
right.
His late brother's widow, and for sure she's asa. In the second case, he's born into a world where she's already married to Shimon, and therefore, says Rabbi Shimon, there's a difference there. That now, if she's not, she doesn't have that label of Eishes Achiv Shelo Haya Ba'olamo. She's now Eishes Shimon, and that's
right.
it.
Right.
And that's Rabbi Shimon's shita, but that's not the halacha. Okay. Mishna Gimel. Klal Amru b'Yevamos. There's a general rule that we have with Yevamos. Kol shehi isu erva lo choletzis v'lo misyabemis. If the woman is aser to the brother because of an erva, those 15 relationships that we saw beforehand. Lo choletzis, lo misyavenas. Then there's no chalitza, no yibum. Okay. Isur mitzvah. If, however, the isur is because of an isur mitzvah, which we will dive into in the coming mishnayos. But just as a sneak preview, it's, for example, a kohen to a divorcee. Okay. Or a kohen gadol to an almana. So a kohen gadol, of course, can't do yibum because any yibum that he's talking about is by definition a widow. Right. And a kohen gadol is not allowed to marry a widow. Okay, so that could be such a case, and we'll see a bunch of cases where this happens. But if there's an isur mitzvah, the isur kedusha, Okay, so there's mitzvah and there's kedusha. They're two different categories, which again we're going to define what they are in the coming mishnayos. Then she still requires chalitza. So there's actually another, I think, easier rule to follow when a woman needs when the woman needs yibum, when she needs chalitza. It's that if the surviving brother would do a kiddushin on her, would the kiddushin take effect? That's really the question. If, like, for example, if a man gives a kiddushin to his sister and says harat mekudeshesli, it's a meaningless act. It didn't happen. Nothing happens. You don't need a get. You just the sister laughs, takes the money, and goes and marries whoever she wants because the kiddushin didn't take effect. If, however, a kohen goes up to a divorcee and says harat mekudeshesli, and she accepts it, the kiddushin is chal. It's aser to do it, but the kiddushin is chal, and this woman is now eshes esh, and she needs a get from the kohen. Right. So that's really your split over here. If the kiddushin would not be chal at all, then the woman, then the Yevama just walks out without even a chalitza. Okay. But if it's an Isser mitzvah or an Isser kedusha, like the kohen to a divorcee, then she would require a get. Then she also requires a chalitza from him. Okay. So so we say this case, which is a little mysterious right now, but in future mishnayos we're going to dive into this. It just says that if she has a sister who is also her sister-in-law, then she gets chalitza and not yibum. Okay, and that's a bit of a difficult case right now to understand. Because you would think that if it's a case of sisters-in-law, like in other words, two brothers are married to two sisters, then she would go out without anything. So
it says her sister is a fellow Yevama. Yes. So they may either perform chalitza or be taken in yibum.
Right. So now that seems to be contrary to what we would have thought. So we're going to have to qualify exactly what is that case. I'm going to dive into Kati's commentary on this actually. Okay. It says. So two sisters who fell to one Yavam, each one of them is asur kol achas mehen nis yavim. They're asur to yibum with him. So let's say you have two brothers who are married to two sisters, and both of the brothers die. Now there's a surviving brother who's got these two sisters who fall into him, and each one of them is called achos zakuka. So we're introducing the term zakuka. A zakuka is a woman who has a dependency on him for yibum, either for yibum or for chalitza, and that is like, it's kind of almost like it's his wife. So now he's got the situation where he's got two sisters who fall into him, and each one of them has a zikuk to him, and so therefore he cannot do yibum on either of them because each one looks like the wife of the sister of his wife. So both of them become asur. So therefore he would have to do chalitza to both of them, right? But if one of these two sisters is asur to him because of some kind of an erva, okay, then she doesn't have a zikah to him at all. Right? Then of course he's allowed to do yibum with the second one, because she's not called achos zakuka, so then it's no longer a sister of his zakuka. Okay, and this is what we learn. Okay, achosa shel erva shehi yavimta, and that's what's missing from this Mishnah. Is it's achosa shel erva shehi yavimta, chalitza filon or misyabemis. He can do chalitza or he can do yibum to her. Okay, so this Mishnah is missing a couple of words, but we'll see in later Mishnayos it's going to go into particularly what these cases are. Okay. Next up is Chagiga, Aleph Daled.
Okay. We may trap moles and mice in an orchard or in a grain field.
Huh?
No, I'm doing mold cutting again. The same thing I do every single day. Every day I do the same thing.
Mm.
Yisraelim discharge their obligation with vow offerings, gift offerings, or the animal tithe, and Kohanim fulfill their obligation with sin offerings, guilt offerings, firstborn of animals, and the breast and thigh of shlomim, but not with foul offerings, nor with meal offerings. One who has many that eat but few possessions should bring many shalom and shlamim and few olos. One who has many possessions but few that eat should bring many olos and few shlamim. If both possessions and eaters are few, concerning this is said, 1 silver ma and 2 silver ma's. If both possessions and eaters are many, concerning this it is said, every man according to his hand's giving, according to the blessing Hashem your God has given you. One who did not offer the kagiga on the first Yom Tov of the festival may offer the kagiga throughout the festival or on the last Yom Tov of the festival. If the festival passed and he did not offer the kagiga, and it is no longer his responsibility concerning it, that it is said, a twisted thing cannot be made straight, and what is not there cannot be made numbered. Okay.
Tinus. Okay. Yeah, we're on a tinus.
Okay. Okay. If Rosh Hashanah Kislev arrived but rain did not fall, Beit Din decrees a series of 3 fasts upon the entire community. They may eat and drink after dark, and they are permitted to work, bathe, anoint themselves with oil, wear shoes, and have marital relations. If these fasts passed and they were not answered with rain, the Beit Din decrees a series of 3 more fasts upon the entire community. They may eat, drink only while it is still daytime, and they are forbidden to work, bathe, anoint themselves with oil, wear shoes, and have marital relations. Also, they must lock the public bathhouses. If these fasts passed and they were not answered with rain, Beit Din decreed a series of 7 more fasts upon them, totaling 13 fasts upon the entire community. The latter 7 fasts are more stringent than the earlier ones, for on these they sound the shofar and lock the doors on Monday. They may open the store doors partially toward evening, but on Thursday they're permitted to keep the doors open in honor of Shabbos. Okay, just one thing I wanted to see here. Why? I'll look this up after. Okay. Okay. Why did they lock the public bathrooms, by the way?
Not bathrooms, it's not as in toilets, it's in bathhouses, places to wash.
So they can't anoint anyway, they can't wash it. So, okay. Think of bathhouses like, okay. Gesachem?
Hang on, did you didn't do Zion. You got to
Zion. That's what I did. Okay. If these fasts passed and they were not answered with rain, they must decrease commerce, construction, planting, betrothals, marriages, and greeting one another, as befits people censored by the omnipresent. And the distinguished individual resume their fasting until Nisan is over. And after Nisan ended, rain fell. It's a symptom of a curse, as it is said, today is today not the wheat harvest. Okay.
Sachim.
Okay, as an onin and one who declares away a pile of rubble. Likewise, one who they have promised to release him from prison, and a sick or an aged person able to eat the vayim of an olive, they slaughter on their behalf. For any of these, they may not slaughter for them alone, lest they cause the Pesach offering to become invalid. Therefore, if any disqualifications befall them, they are exempt from participating in the second Pesach, except for the one who was clearing a pile of rubble, for he was found to be contaminated retroactively. They may not slaughter a Pesach offering for an individual, and these are the words of Reb Yehuda, but Reb Yossi permits. Even if a group consists of 100 people, if they are unable to eat the vayim of an olive, we may not slaughter on their behalf. We may not form a group solely of women, slaves, and alminers. And Onan immerses himself and eats his Pesach offering in the evening, but may not eat other offerings. One who hears about the death of his relative, or one who has arranged for bones of a close relative to be gathered on his behalf, immerses himself and eats of offerings. If a proselyte has been converted on the eve of Pesach, Reb Shammai says if he immerses himself and eats of his Pesach offering in the evening. Beis Hillel says one who separates himself from an uncircumcised state is like one who separates himself from the grave. Okay.
Okay. Next is Kilayim. That's
Oh, okay. Well, the wild axe is a kind of domesticated animal, but Rabbi Yossi says it is a kind of undomesticated animal. The dog is an undomesticated animal, and Rabbi Meir says it is a kind of domesticated animal. The pig is a kind of domesticated animal, and the wild donkey is a kind of undomesticated animal. The elephant and the ape are kinds of undomesticated animals, and a man may draw, plow, or drive with any of them. Okay. Something's wrong here. Okay. Kalayim. The Kalayim prohibition applies only to wood and linen. Only wood and linen are rendered unclean by
wool. I think you said wood.
I probably did. Kalayim prohibition applies only to wool and linen, and only wool and linen are rendered unclean by Nagayim. The priests wear for service in the temple only wool and linen. If the camel's wool and sheep's wool have been hackled together, if the greater part is camel's wool, it's permitted. But if the greater part is sheep's wool, it is forbidden, for it is half and half. And
if it's half and half.
Right. And the same applies to linen and hemp hackled together. It's a strange word, hackled.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you combine them, the basic fibers to make the thread.
Mm-hmm. Silk and bast silk do not come under the prohibition of Kalayim, but are forbidden on account of appearances. Mattresses and pillows do not come under the prohibition of Kalayim, provided one's flesh does not touch them. If there is no exemption for casual wear of Kalayim, and Kalayim may not be worn even on top of 10, not even to evade custom dues.
Right, and that evading customs dues is talking about from somebody who's collecting it Shelo B'Tzedek. Of course, if somebody collecting it for illegally according to the Din HaMedina, then you have to pay it. So,
Your test solid. Right?
Yes.
If a zav is supported by the bed and the mizran it transmits truma to 2 and invalidates 1, these are the words of Reb Meir. Reb Yoshi says if a zav is supported by a mizran is supported by the bed and by the mizran, the first 10 handbreadths of the mizran transmit truma to 2 and invalidate 1. The part of the mizran from 10 handbreadths and outward transmits truma to 1 and invalidates 1. If a zav is supported by the mizran from 10 handbreadths and inward, it is tameh. From 10 handbreadths and outward, it is tahor. If a bed was tameh midras and one wound a mizran around it, the entire bed is tameh midras. If a bed was wound with a mizran and a corpse touches it, they are tameh with 7-day tumah. If they separate from each other, they are tameh within 7-day tumah. If a sheretz touches them and they are tameh with evening tumah, then if they separate from each other, they are tameh with evening tumah. Regarding a bed whose 2 long boards are removed and one fashioned new boards for it, and he did not alter the notches, if the new beds broke, the bed remains tameh. For if the old beds, if the old beds boards broke, the bed is tahor. For everything depends on the old boards. A chest whose opening is on top can become tameh with corpse.
I'll just hold on a second. I've lost the place over here. Which Mishna are you on?
I'm on Zion.
Okay, Zion's gone too far. I think you skipped the page in the middle because I lost the place.
I probably did. I probably did. I got it. Okay. If a bed was wound with a mizran and a corpse touches it, they are tameh with 7-day tumah. If they separate from one and each other, then they are tameh with 7-day tumah. If a sheretz touches them, they are tameh with evening tumah. And if they separate from each other, they are tameh with evening tumah. Regarding a bed whose 2 long boards were removed and one fashioned new boards for it, and he did not alter the notches, if the new boards broke, the bed remains tameh, but if the old boards broke, the bed is tahor, for everything depends on the old boards.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Fine?
Hedron, yeah.
Okay. Yud Aleph Gimel. There is a greater stringency attached to the words of the scribes than to the words of the Torah. If one says that there is no mitzvah of tefillin in order to transgress the words of the Torah, he's exempt. If he says there are 5 compartments of tefillin to add to the words of the scribes, he's liable. They do not execute him in the court of his town or in the court of Yavna. Rather, they bring him up on the high court in Yerushalayim and guard him until the festival and execute him during the festival. As it is stated, and the entire nation shall hear and shall fear, and they shall no longer sin willfully. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda says they do not delay this person's judgment, rather they execute him immediately and write and send messengers to all places saying, so-and-so was sentenced to death by this court. A false prophet, the one who prophesies concerning that which he did not hear, or that one which was not said, he is executed at the hands of man. But one who suppresses his prophecy, and one who disregards the words of the prophet, and a prophet who transgresses by his own words are executed at the hands of heaven. As it is stated, I shall demand it from him.
That's it.
Now tomorrow we're going to start Shvi'it.
Tomorrow we're going to start Makos over there.
Makos. Okay, I was looking.